Good evening, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome back to Hilaal Live. I'd like to say Jazakallah to my colleague Luqman Shadrack for taking us for that first 1 hour on a cold July the 10th, 2023. And it has been that cold. If you lived in the Johannesburg area, of course, you would have woken up to some parts of the city, some parts of Gauteng province, to snow that was coming down. And of course, it's a very rare occasion for it to happen. And this is what, of course, happened here in the Johannesburg region. Of course, the cold snap that had just arrived over the weekend, a massive cold front that first hit the Western Cape and then went inland towards the country. Now, it gives me great pleasure to, of course, talk about how this had happened and the build-up to, of course, what happened today. I'd like to welcome from the South African Weather Service, the forecaster, Lehlohonolo Thobela. Lehlohonolo, good evening, and thank you so much for joining us.
Good day, and thanks for having me.
Now, it's an absolute pleasure. So, Lehlohonolo, this was unexpected. I knew we were going to get cold coming, but not snow.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we've also been surprised to gotten snow over Gauteng in terms of how it was forecasted. We forecasted very cold conditions. However, the freezing levels were not fairly agreeing to say they would have snow over Gauteng. Much more of the areas over the central and the southern parts were expected to be very cold, and which as a result, like a fridge, if you put water in the fridge, it becomes ice as soon as it's very cold.
Right, let's focus on the parts where, of course, snow was predicted. Most of the Eastern Cape, a lot, of course, in the Free State. When you woke up, beautiful images, wasn't it? Just seeing how that snow was falling. And again, a rare occasion for it to happen in South Africa.
That's true. I mean, we would say not rare in South Africa, but uncommon for it to happen. The last time we've had snow was around August, especially over Gauteng. August 2012 was then the 7th. That's when we had our last snow. But then, as much as it's not common for it to happen, it really does happen in times where it does happen. It has about a period of over 10 years for it to happen, and it seems to be showing fit as to how it happened. Yes, we had snow over Gauteng, some parts of Gauteng still receiving some sleet, and with much of that being said, much of the snow right now is expected or is still seen over the escarpments of Mpumalanga and the Highveld areas of Mpumalanga as we speak. Much more of it is yet to come over, as much as we still have moisture and the freezing levels remaining where they are, with temperatures remaining below 10 degrees Celsius. We might also still see much more of the frost and snow due to the cold conditions that are expected overnight.
Lehlohonolo, I want to focus on Mpumalanga because, I mean, you would know best, but that was one province where snow, again, uncommon for it to happen. But you just saw, of course, especially over the Hazy View area, just beautiful, beautiful snow that was there. I mean, talk to us about that part of South Africa because, snow wasn't really expected to hit there.
Yeah, I think much of the snow that was seen over the areas of Mpumalanga could also include areas around Dalstrom, moving over to Belfast, which is called Emakazeni. And if you are from a Zulu area, you know Emakazeni means cold. And with that happening, these are the areas that we expect much more of the cold to result in snow. And with the escarpments and the freezing levels being met, Mpumalanga and Foxgrass areas are there by the southern parts, moving over to KZN also, areas around Underberg. I mean, we saw just yesterday the Underberg waterfall just froze due to the cold. So yes, it's quite an uncommon phenomenon, especially for snow to spread further through into the areas that I've mentioned. However, we are here and it is cold.
Lehlohonolo, I want to focus on Gauteng, right? So a lot of people have asked me, have you got snow? So I'm from the east, and most of the snow had fell in, of course, in the central parts of Johannesburg. Why is it that so? Would the east be more delayed in getting the snow? Maybe you can tell us with regards to how snow would be falling in different parts of not just Johannesburg, but the Gauteng province, because I know where you guys are in Centurion, a little bit of sleet, but not that heavy snowfall like what we saw in the central parts of Johannesburg.
With that being said, I think you need to take in consideration that snow actually needs rain, moisture, as well as freezing levels to be met. So if you look at the areas about the East Rand, that would include the Heidelberg side, Vosloorus, they received quite a number of snow. They are much more higher than where we are in terms of position. So the higher you are, the colder you get. However, the further south you go, the further lower you go, the less snow you would receive. So that's why they received much more of the snow.
Lehlohonolo, Drakensberg, because we always look at Drakensberg as sort of like the central point where a lot of snow happens. Of course, we also look at our neighbors, Lesotho, and this time, I mean, it's a dream for a lot of the holiday makers who enjoy the snow in that part of the SADC region. But how much of an influence does Drakensberg and Lesotho play in terms of how the cold front is distributed across the country?
Yes, I think much of the snow that is experienced over the Drakensberg and the high-lying areas is expected due to it being over high-lying ground. And firstly, with it being over high-lying ground, the upper or the greater you go higher, the colder it gets. And with that being happening, that's when we were expecting much more of the freezing levels were met and the snow was seen, and the influence comes from the higher mountains as it gets cold.
Lehlohonolo, the big question, are these conditions going to stay with us for long? If there is a temporary break from it, when do you think it will return, given that we are right now in the peak of our winter period?
Much of the cold conditions are yet to go on for the week. However, we're yet to see some improvement on Wednesday, where we just see cool temperatures. However, winter is not yet over. We are still yet to feel and see much of the cold conditions.
Lehlohonolo Thobela, we'd like to say thank you so much for joining us here on Hilaal Live.
Thank you.
That's Lehlohonolo Thobela. He's a forecaster at the South African Weather Service. He's giving us an idea of how everything had built up to, of course, a beautiful, day of snow right here in the Gauteng region. But wait to see how long this cold snap that the province, the city, and many other parts of South Africa are experiencing right now. After the break, we'll be chatting rugby. If you had a chance to go to Loftus this weekend, an amazing performance by the Springboks as they defeated Australia. I'll be chatting to Khotsosello, who's going to be talking about that game and what this means for South Africa heading into that big match that they're playing against the All Blacks on Saturday at Auckland. Do stay tuned.